Hi, I'm John Wilcox. I'm a volunteer here at Lakewold Gardens in Western Washington. We're in the city of Lakewood, and I've taken an interest in rhododendrons. So it's early May, the rhodies are in great bloom, and so come on and take a little walk with me along Circle Drive. Rhododendrons have always fascinated me. Not that I'm an expert on them, I'm certainly not. But what I find interesting is rhododendrons can grow from anywhere to a couple of inches to 80, 100 feet in the air. This is a typical rhododendron here. People ask me sometimes what's the difference between a rhododendron and an azalea. Well, rhododendrons, if you look inside, you'll see these little things that stick out, their stamens. In most rhododendrons, there's 10 stamens. In azaleas, there's only 5. So that's not true all of the time, but it's true more of the time than not. So that's a good way to tell the difference between rhodies and azaleas. In the world, there's 2 types of rhodies. There's species rhododendrons and there's hybrids. The species are the original moms and pops in the world. They're naturally found over in places like Nepal and Western China and Tibet, but also in Europe, and there's native rhododendrons in North America. This is called the bowbell rhododendron, very light pink, very airy, very nice rhododendron. Here at Lakewold, we have some rhododendrons that come in bloom as early as late January, and we have some that stay in bloom as long as mid-July. So for about half of the year, there's some kind of rhodie in bloom. Here in mid-May, like we are early May as we are now, we have most rhododendrons in bloom. Now most rhododendrons like a mixture of sun and shade. And this one here is in the shade more often than not. It's a species rhododendron. This means it's one of the original moms and pops that grew naturally in the world. And it's called Rhododendron wiltonii. Now, if you mixed one species with another species, you'd end up with a hybrid. Or if you mixed a hybrid with a species, you get a hybrid. If you mix a hybrid with a hybrid, you get a hybrid. So in this garden, there's a mixture of both species rhododendrons like this and the hybrid rhododendrons, which are the most common. In the world, I would say there's over 1,000 species rhododendrons, but there's like 10,000 or more hybrids. Now, not all rhododendrons are prized for their flowers. Some are prized for their leaves. This is an example. This is called Rhododendron rothschildii, a species rhododendron. And notice the kind of shiny, attractive looking leaves. And on the underside of these leaves, you'll see something that looks a little different. This coloring down here is actually very minute hairs, and it's called indumentum. Not all rhododendrons have indumentum. In fact, most of them do not. But this rothschildii has indumentum. Sometimes the indumentum is this color, which I guess you'd call brown, more or less. But it could be white, it could be tan colored, could even be reddish. Not in this particular rhodie, but in a variety of rhododendrons that we see. There's a lot that are called Marinus costers over here. But look on the underside, no indumentum at all on these rhodies. So some rhododendrons have indumentum, some of them do not. I might point out that as we're walking toward the Wagner house, which is just a short distance away, this driveway that we're on was designed by a San Francisco architect by the name of Thomas Church. And he purposely made it a curved entrance toward the house instead of just a straight shot in order to give you a look at the house before you ever got there. And it really enhances the beauty of the house and of the rhododendrons surrounding it to have designed it in that way. On this side of Circle Drive, there's a lot of rhododendrons that are the same type. They're all called Marinus costers, and they have a beautiful deep ruby throat to them with speckling. And I don't mean to get too technical, but most rhododendrons have 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. The Pacific Northwest, where we are, obviously, in Western Washington, is ideal for rhododendrons. Why? It rains a lot here. Now, not today, it's a beautiful day today, but Washington State, at least Western Washington, gets a lot of rain. Rhododendrons like to have moisture going through their root systems. They don't want to sit in the moisture, they just want it passing through. And that's why in this country, Western Washington is probably the finest place to grow rhododendrons in the entire United States. There are several places in the United States where native rhododendrons grow. The Appalachians in the east are one, and then out here in the Pacific Northwest is the other. This particular rhododendron here is called Yakushimanum, Rhododendron Yakushimanum, a species rhododendron. And you'll notice that on the underside of the leaf is some more of what we called a little while ago indimenum. You see it there? This kind, I'd call that maybe a, I don't know, light brown or fawn color. And if you run your finger over, it's very soft to the touch. And all of the Yakushimanums have indimenum, all of them. This particular type of rhododendron Yakushimanum has curved leaves that are not all that long. You'll see some other Yakushimanums that are quite different. Notice also that some of the new growth has what looks like road dust on the top. That's not road dust. It's just a feature of this type of rhododendron. It'll wear itself off after a while, but while it's young, it's called tomentum. So you have indimenum on the underside and tomentum on the top. And when the flowering truss is done, it kind of looks a little ugly. So what we do is we go around and we do what's called deadheading. And that is cutting off the old flowering part so that this part can start anew, start forming buds for next year. So if you ever do deadheading, don't break off the stem too far down, just cut off the dead part like that, and then the plant is ready to go for next year. Here again, all these Yakushimanums have one thing in common. What is it? The indimenum on the bottom. This is really light, and that's more like a fawn color, I'd say, but they're still Yakushimanums, and this particular type blooms a little later than the others. When they have a bunch of flowers like that, that's called a truss. And when you're trying to identify rhodies, sometimes it's helpful to count how many flowers are in a truss because that's one of the determining factors about this particular kind of rhodie. Rhododendrons can play with you a little bit. They like to fool you. Most rhododendrons have 5 petals and 10 stamens. This does not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals on each flower on the truss on this particular rhodie. This is called a Rhododendron loderi, King George. There's a number of loderi rhododendrons in Lakewold Gardens. This is one of them. And as I say, it fools you because you think that most rhododendrons have 5 petals. No. Some of them have 7, just like this one. Another thing is, most rhododendrons do not have a fragrance. This does. Oh, it's wonderful. And if you did that with most rhododendrons, you wouldn't smell anything at all. But this one has a wonderful fragrance, so it'll fool you sometimes. Thank you for watching this video, and we hope that you'll visit us, and I think you're really going to enjoy it if you do.